Hi, we're Ariel,
And Michelle,
and
and
we're
we're
the
the
Board
board game
Game
tutors.
Tutors, and we're going to be going over part one of Advanced Concepts for the Swamp Orcs, which is one of the 6 factions that you can find in the Summoner Wars Master Set. In this part one video, we're going to be covering vine walls and their differences compared to regular walls that you would find in your Swamp Orcs faction. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So the first thing that you want to know is your vine walls. You have 15 copies of your vine walls, and you can tell they're vine walls compared to regular walls because they say vine wall on them. So you can't really mistake that. If you want to go for visual things, they have vines. So that's that. So you have to take all 15 of your vine wall cards. You separate them. You never mix them in with your draw pile. They go on a stack off to the side of the board. So whenever you have an instance where you need to place a vine wall on the field, then you follow the rules of on the other cards that we'll be discussing in part two of putting the vine wall, grabbing one from the deck on the side, and putting it on the board as the game instructs you to, right? And so let's go ahead and get started. So like I said, this is a regular swamp orc wall right here. It's completely normal, follows all the regular rules of walls, has 9 hit points, cannot move, and yeah, looks like a vine wall, just doesn't have the vines if you look at the picture carefully. And so here are the vine wall cards. Um, the main difference they have here is they only have 2 hit points. They cannot take more than 2 hits before they are destroyed. So they're fairly weak walls. Um, but obviously, if you have a lot of vine walls on the board, then they can be rather scary for your opponent to deal with. And so one of the main things you want to know is when you attack this vine wall. Let's say, for example, you rolled a 4 against this vine wall when you attacked it as the opposing player, the enemy player, then you would put 1 wound on this wall. Just like commons, champions, summoners, you track the damage that's done to this wall. If you rolled 2 dice and you rolled 2 4s, then obviously the wall would be gone. You'd take it off. And when a vine wall is destroyed, it does not go to the person's magic pile who destroyed it. It goes back to the vine wall pile. So it has 2 life, and when it's destroyed, it just goes back here. It's not magic. And when you damage it, let's say, for example, let's go back to the original example I said of it just has 1 wound marker on it. Um, if you're moving people around on the board, and vine walls, they're kind of special in this case because they can actually be walked over. Movement can take place on top of them. So if you ever put one of your units, or your enemy puts any of their units on top of a vine wall, they would go on top of that. So you would have to distinguish the fact that if this vine wall was only damaged for 1 point, then you put the damage on that vine wall, not on the card that's on top of it. And let's say that unit was already damaged for 1 point. You do this little complicated juggling act of, let's say, okay, he goes here. So you keep the damage distinguished at all times. All right. So the next thing about vine walls is placement. So whenever you have text on your cards in the Swamp Orcs deck that instruct you to place a vine wall onto the board, you follow those instructions exactly. We'll talk about them in depth on the next video. And you take them and you put them on the board. Another important thing about vine walls is the fact that they can be placed anywhere on the board. Um, so they can go on your side of the battlefield, they can go on your enemy's side of the battlefield. You just have to meet the rules that the card that instructed you to place it on the board. You have to follow the rules of what it says. So you just have to make sure you fulfill those conditions. And another thing is, let's say this wall was here. You cannot place a vine wall on top of another wall. That is an illegal move. You must only put them on other spaces where there are not currently walls. And lastly, let's say there is a unit on the field. This hunter, for example. Not going to go in depth into what his special text is, but what you need to know most is you can put a vine wall where a unit currently exists on the board if the text instructs you to. It doesn't smash the hunter like would be cool if this was like an enemy unit. You would think that was awfully cool, but no, it goes underneath that card. So that's another thing that you have to take note of. It doesn't crush the person, it goes underneath them. Imagine the vines growing underneath the hunter's feet. That's what you would picture, basically. Okay? So that's vine walls in terms of placement on the board. And another important thing to note in terms of placement, let's pretend this was an enemy wall, and I can't reach all the way over there. So let's just pretend that was an enemy wall. I turned it the other way. One of the main things you want to do with vine walls is to grow them towards an enemy wall, because whenever a vine wall is adjacent to an enemy wall, your enemy army can no longer summon units to that space directly in front of their wall, or if the vine wall was here, to that space. You get the picture. The more spaces that you can cover with vine walls, the fewer summoning points that your opponent has an option to summon from. So right here, in this example, your enemy would not be able to summon unless they summoned right there. Right? So that's one tactic you use for vine walls. All right. And so that was placement. Now we're going to talk about movement. So let's push this aside. Let's say, for example, you have a vine wall here. Now, if you or an enemy unit, you using your own units, or an enemy unit, wants to walk over this vine wall, like I said, is a possibility. The way this works is like so. So, let's say it's an enemy unit, for example, and pretend it's not a swamp orc. Let's just say that. So this unit is here. So the regular movement phase would be 1, 2, because you can go over vine walls. But when you do this, the first movement, 1, that's free, and that's allowed. But if you want to move off of this vine wall in any direction, here, here, or here, you would need to roll a die first. So we roll a die. You rolled a 1. If you roll a 1, a 2, or a 3, this hunter, or this common, whatever it is, even if it's a champion or a summoner, I believe that's the case. Yeah. That unit, if it rolls a 1, a 2, or a 3, will be damaged for 1 point. Take a wound marker. Because basically their foot got caught in the vine, and so they're stuck. And they cannot move anymore because they got stuck on the vine wall. So that's important in terms of movement. Yeah, I reread the rules just now. So any unit that does that. So if you were an enemy summoner, that would still apply to you. It applies to commons, champions, summoners, and even conjurations when we get to that point. All right, so that's how movement works. If you rolled, okay, still rolled a 3, still rolled a 1. Let's just say I rolled a 4. How about that? So I rolled a 4. Now, my original movement that I would have done with this unit, I'm ignoring the text here, so don't jump down my neck. I know that this is special text. You go 1, and you roll the die, you got a 4. Now I can move forward 1 to there. And I would not be damaged because I didn't roll 1 through 3. So that's how movement works with vine walls. Alrighty. And also, one special rule is a unit can never use their event or special ability to move through a unit that is on a vine wall. So, for example, you're going to come across with the Swamp Orcs. Let's say this Swamp Orc is right here. You're going to come across units that can go through other units eventually. So let's pretend this is a card where this person goes through another unit. You could not go over this unit because there is a vine wall underneath him. And vine walls, they restrict movement. So that would be an illegal move. You could not go through a unit that is on top of the vine wall. All right? Lastly, okay, let's say you also were, in terms of attacking, let's say you were an enemy unit, for example, on top of this vine wall. Enemy units that are on top of a vine wall, and even your own units as the Swamp Orcs, when they're on top of the wall, For attacking purposes, because you can always attack walls, remember, they just have 9 hit points. These ones have 2. Whenever you're on a vine wall, it's essentially the same as if you were next to it. So that means if you're on top of a vine wall, you're also adjacent to it. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but for the purposes of attacking said vine wall, you were next to it, so you can attack this vine wall because, like we said, there is a definite negative aspect of going on top of a vine wall because you're essentially stuck on it if you don't want to have the potential of getting hurt. So that unit would roll once, didn't get a successful attack. That unit would keep rolling until it got 2 successful rolls. There you go. And then the vine wall would be dead, gone. And like I said, it would not go to your magic, it would go to your the other person's vine wall deck.
So of course you'd follow all the same rules of attacking as if you were adjacent to it. You would do your normal number of rolls and then of course wait for another turn to roll again if you didn't succeed.
Right. Or let's say, for example, if this guy was on top of the wall, he rolled 1, he got a success, and he also had a friend over here, and he could also attack the vine wall to help him get off the vine wall. Yeah, and that was successful. The vine wall would now be gone. Mm-hmm. Now, let's say, for example, I have, as the Swamp Orcs, have 1 unit here, and this person has 1 unit over here. This person's a ranged person, so he can attack from a distance, and so he theoretically is within 3 spaces of this unit right here. 1, 2, 3. So he could theoretically do a long-range attack with his bow and arrow symbol, but because there is a wall here, he cannot attack this shaman. He would have to jump on top of the wall. Then the wall would no longer be in his way because he'd be on top of it, and then he could attack the shaman. So he could move twice, but like we said, he would take the risk of getting hurt. The least risky thing to do in this situation would be to jump on the wall and roll a die from a distance at that shaman. So that's that. And also, let's see, that's for that. So yeah, and also, you also have the option of attacking a wall as well. So let's say there were 2 enemy units over here. This guy got stuck on the vine wall. He doesn't want to leave it because he might get hurt. Like I said, this shaman could attack that vine wall to help his friend out. And the way he would do that is before rolling dice, because obviously it could be a friendly person on the vine wall. It could be an enemy unit on the vine wall. You just have to react to whatever given situation there is. This shaman could say, I am attacking, before rolling the die, I am attacking the wall. Or, if it was an enemy unit and he was facing the opposite direction, I am attacking the unit, not the vine wall. You just have to specify first. You can't just roll the die and say, oh, I choose a person. That's not allowed. You have to do it that way. All right, so vine walls, that's everything I believe you need to know about vine walls. If there's anything else that you think that we missed, please let us know. And also, if you enjoyed this video and would like regular updates, we regularly post videos on our YouTube channel with different videos for a bunch of different board games. So please subscribe to us if you would like to. All right.
All right. Thanks so much for watching.
Thanks, guys.
See you in the next video.
All right. Bye.
Bye.